Hello, classroom. We are here in the reading room. Thank you for joining me. And let's go ahead. We'll get started, right? The Mostly True Adventures of Homer P. Figg. I'm looking to see, do we know the protagonist's name? I don't know. Why can't I find his name? Seems silly to me. Look at my hair right now when I'm down like that. At least it's clean. Boiled by Indians, chapter 21. Far as I'm concerned, taking a bath is sort of like drowning with soap. Never could abide it. Never, not since I was a little baby. Harold says our dear mother used to rinse me in a big tin pot under the water pump like I was a potato, and it always made me holler. So naturally, I try to persuade Minerva, the tattooed lady, to save the 10 cents and buy us some taffy and licorice twists instead, and maybe a peppermint to improve her breath. Bath is a waste of time, money, and effort, I'm saying as she drags me into an alley not far from the steamship terminal. The alley is a dim and narrow place of falling down shacks and skinny buildings that lean towards the harbor. A little dirt makes a person healthy, I insist. Look, all I got to do is spit on my hands and rub them on my trousers. See? Good as new. She gives me a look that would make a weasel die of shame. One, it's Professor Fleabottom's money, and we shan't be spending it on candy. Two, hold your tongue, or that will get a taste of soap too. Understand? What about three? Three? When a person says one something and two this or that, usually they say three such and such. It's never just one and two. There's always a three. Everybody knows that red-haired folks tend to excite easily, and that's certainly the case with the tattooed lady. Without another word, sputtering don't count. She slings me over her hip like a sack of laundry, and before I can count to four, we're inside a hot, steamy shack, and she's handed me over to the Indians for boiling. The Indians plunge me in a big wooden laundry tub of hot, soapy water and scrub me like a load of dirty dishes, a load of dirty shirts, and talk to each other in a language that sounds like a bag of bells falling down the stairs. Turns out they're not Indians like we have in Maine, that mostly live in the woods and fish and hunt. These are Indians from China, similar eyes, but a different tribe. Best behave yourself, Minerva warns, as they dry me off with fluffy towels and dress me in clean clothes. If I tell them you're half pig, they might have you for supper. Apparently, being shipwrecked on a cannibal island makes Minerva think all foreigners are cannibals. Cannibals are people who eat people. For your information, Indians don't eat children, I tell her. They prefer full-grown females with red hair. I figure that will embarrass the tattooed lady or at least make steam come out of her ears, but much to my surprise, instead of getting mad, she laughs. Fenton's right, she says, chuckling. You are a funny one. On the way back, she buys me a bag of taffy candy and a peppermint for herself. To improve my breath, she says, still laughing. Back at the steamship terminal, Professor Fleabottom has the wagons ready to go and seems mighty eager to be shut of this particular area. There are sulkers about, he tells Minerva, his mustache all twitchy with nerves. You mean coppers, she says brightly. Where are they? Not coppers, he says, keeping his voice low. Spies. All around, here and there. They're very clever spies. Spies, she says loudly, and why ever would spies be interested in us? Fleabottom puts a finger to his lips. Hush, woman. The world has ears. Then he notices me standing there, listening to every word. Bad habit of mine, he says, clearing his throat, joking about this and that. What a ridiculous idea. He goes on for a while, laughing and pretending the stuff about sulkers and spies is just a prank, but I know a thing or two about stretching the truth. And Mr. Fenton J. Fleabottom, he's a stretcher. I decide to keep my eyes peeled just in case. Chapter 22, The Secret in the Wagons. Professor Fleabottom lets me ride next to him high up in the driver's seat as the horses plod through the crowded streets headed for the ferry terminal. Never have I seen so many people in one place all trying to get somewhere at the same time. Folks of all colors, white and black and mixed, and a bunch that look like the Chinese Indians and others I never seen before. Men in fine suits and tall hats and ladies with parasols and gloves, and men in rags, and poor, hunched-up old women begging as they shuffle along, all in a hurry. Makes me feel a little out of breath to think that if one more human being sets foot on this end of Manhattan Island, it may tip over like a dinner plate and slip into the sea. Wouldn't that be kind of cool to be sitting there? Think about it. Think about how he knows so very little, right? And then now he's sitting there on top next in the driver's seat and seeing all of this hustle and bustle of the big city. It was probably very exciting for him. Professor Fleabottom says there's more people in this city than in the entire state of Maine, all jammed together with 100,000 horses and more goats, dogs, cats, cows, and chickens than can be counted, all breathing the same smoky air and drinking the same water. The horses, he says, are a special kind of problem. Multiply 100,000 horses by 20 pounds of manure each day per horse, and what do you get? A big stink? On the nose, he says, delighted. 2,000 tons of odoriferous delight, all of which makes me long for the fragrance of New Jersey. What's New Jersey smell like? Grass and dirt. Mostly, once we get past the swampy part, but first we must cross the river. Every now and then he looks behind us as if worried about being followed. I check too, but there are so many people there's no way to know who might be following us or who might just be going in the same direction. Wagons scrape by, heading the opposite way, and the big men driving the wagons crack their whips and shout abuse and make rude gestures. Professor Fleabottom smiles and waves and tells Minerva to stay out of sight inside the wagon in case her tattoos might stop traffic altogether. Just drive, Fenton. I can take care of myself as well you know, she says, looking around. Seems like even though she made fun of him for mentioning spies, she's keeping an eye out too. Seems like even though... Oops, just read that. As for me, I'm straining to catch a glimpse of the men driving the last two wagons in our little caravan. From what I can see as we jounce over the cobblestones, they both look pretty normal, just regular men with beards and floppy hats that hide their eyes. Sit down and quit messing about, Professor Fleabottom says. You'll scare the horses. What's in those wagons, I want to know. The way Fleabottom and Minerva are acting, there might be something hidden in the wagons. Something way more exciting than a boy who pretends to be a pig. Ah, Fleabottom says, his eyes glinting with humor. You guessed it, did you? I guess there was something, but I don't know what exactly. Patience, young man. You will know all of our secrets by this evening, but not until then. No matter how much I beg, he won't tell me the secret in the wagons, and I finally decide to shut up and bide my chance. The ferry terminal is near as crowded as the streets, with the mob waiting impatiently to get across the Hudson River. Some are on foot, others in carriages and wagons. The ferries leave on the quarter hour, regular as clockwork. They have flat decks so you can drive straight aboard, and big steam-driven paddles on either side. At the sounding of a steam whistle, the gate opens and a man shouts, "All aboard!" 10 minutes later, wagons and horses and all were bound for Jersey City. The river is thick with ferry boats and steamships and sailboats of every size. Looks like the whole world is on the move, crossing that water. Behind us is the island of Manhattan. Behind us, the island of Manhattan starts to fade away until it looks like it's made of fog and sticks. The puffs of gray smoke tooting out the ferry boat smokestack reminds me of Uncle Squint's clay pipe. Makes me wonder if he misses us. Most likely he misses all the work we did. Strange as it may seem, I sort of miss the farm. The barn that was our home, and Bob the horse, and Bees and Floss the milk cows. Can't say I miss Squint himself in particular. No surprise there. The real surprise is waiting on the dock in New Jersey, standing tall in his new blue uniform, my brother Harold, as big as life. Oh yeah, his name is Homer. All right, Harold is his brother. I got that mixed up earlier. That's it. Chapter 21 and 22. Let me just see how long 23 is. Let's read 23. 23, the sounds of guns. Soon as the ferry bumps the pier, I'm off and running, thinking this surely is my lucky day. My adventures have barely begun, and I already have found my big brother. It wasn't so bad. Just an abduction or two, and being robbed and thrown in with the pigs, and joining the caravan of miracles, and being boiled by Indians. Already I'm improving the story in my mind with the purpose of making Harold laugh. He don't laugh that much, being a serious-minded person, but when he does, it feels like someone gave you a silver dollar because it's bright and shiny and rings true. I come all this way just to hear it. Harold, Harold, it's me, Harold. This reminds me of my two boys. It really does. My young boy was a fibber all the way back, and my older son would just really, he probably would have told every story where my younger son would have been the hero. It just warms my heart. I love this book. Thank you so much, Rodman, Philbrick. I fight my way through a sea of young men in new uniforms, dark blue 4-button coats and sky blue trousers and forage caps, and each man with a black canvas haversack to carry his food. Most of the Union Army seems to be milling about, waiting for trains to take them south. It's like a blue wool forest that smells of sweat and boot polish. Figure I can get to Harold before he gets on a war train. We fix it so he don't have... Figure if I can get to Harold before he gets on a war train, we can fix it so he don't have to go. We bring me and Professor Fleabottom, since he knows men in the army and can help and maybe help us. Harold, Harold. At last he turns to my voice. Up close, the face is wrong. My stomach flip-flops. Something awful. And I nearly trip and fall because it ain't Harold. It's another boy who could be him on account of his size and the way he stands. You're not Harold, I say, stopping to catch my breath. Private Thomas Finch, 15th Massachusetts, he says, voice cracking. Sorry, looking for my brother Harold Figg of Pine Swamp, Maine. Private Finch shakes his head. I believe the Maine regiments that mustered here have gone ahead. Your brother may be among them. Okay, I pant, blinking the sweat from my eyes. Thanks. I'm about to go find Professor Fleabottom and the wagons when I'm struck by inspiration. Private Finch, I say, turning back to tug at his stiff woolen sleeve. If you happen to come across Harold Figg of Pine Swamp, Maine, would you please tell him to get on home? His little brother Homer is dying. Will you tell him that? If I meet him, certainly, says Private Finch, but it is a big war. How will I know him? Looks a lot like you, except Harold is slightly taller and stronger and better looking. Is that a fact, says Private Finch with a toothy grin. I'll see what I can do, Homer. You are Homer Figg, right? I shrug. Maybe I am. I must say, my young friend, that you look remarkably healthy for a boy who is dying. Never mind that. Will you tell him? Of course. After glancing around and grinning to himself, he snaps me a fine salute. Thank you, Homer Figg. I am reminded to write a letter to my own dear little brother, who is slightly taller and stronger and better looking than you, and who would no doubt fake his own death to have me safe at home. He melts away into the blue wool forest. A moment later, the tattooed lady has me by the collar. She's puffing like I am from fighting her way through the crowd. Thought we'd lost you, boy. She tips up my chin, looks me in the eye. What's this? Have you been crying? I shake my head, and she knows enough to say no more. That evening, the Caravan of Miracles puts on the first show since I joined the company. We're 10 hard miles from the terminal in Jersey City in low, weedy country, not far from the sea, and come upon an army encampment. Must be 100 white canvas tents set up in the tall grass, and the sound of rolling gunfire and shouting men just over the horizon. Is there a battle? I want to know, standing up in my seat to see better. Is this the war? The war is still some great distance away, Professor Fleabottom explains. These are new recruits training to fight. We set up our wagons in a little area surrounded by sandy bluffs, which he says is to keep us from the wind, but which also means we're hard to see if you don't know where to look. A medicine show is not always welcome by the generals, he tells me. They think it distracts from the business of war, whereas we believe these young men deserve a bit of fun at the end of a long, hard day. Thus, we strive to entertain, but with the utmost discretion. While we unload gear and get ready for the show, the two men who drive the other wagons approach the army camp on foot and let the recruits know where we are and what might be expected of us. Me and Minerva are in charge of setting out the lamps and torches for when it gets dark and putting up the banners and flags. A warm wind lifts the silky banners and makes it look like the words are dancing on air. Fleabottom's Miracle Elixir, the totally tattooed lady from Cannibal Island, the talented tumbling Brillo Brothers, the amazing Pig Boy. The really amazing thing is I can't wait to see the shows, and I'm in it. Okay, that's all we have. We will come back tomorrow to read Chapter 24. We'll be here earlier, right? Tomorrow. What is going on? We'll be back here Tuesday at the same time, 3:15, and we will be reading Chapter 24, 3 oinks for Pig. 3 oinks for Homer Pig. Okay, all right. This is Dr. Neferich. Thanks for sticking with me in the reading room. I love the story, as you know already, and I will see you on Tuesday at 3:15. Thanks for joining me.